Today, I'm going to show you what cheeses I think make for the perfect cheese board, and in the process, hopefully teach you guys something about cheese. To get started on this cheese board, we're going to need an actual board. I usually prefer wood over marble or slate because I think it makes the cheese look prettier, and marble or slate tend to make the cheeses colder, and we want these good in room temperature. So the first cheese on my perfect cheese board is something of a crowd pleaser. This cheese is called Delice de Bourgogne, or Burgundy's Delight, and it's a cow's milk French pasteurized triple cream mold ripened cheese. Yes, that's a lot of information, but those 5 traits tell you pretty much everything you need to know about a cheese. The triple cream part means that a lot of cream was added to the milk before they started making it into cheese. The result is obviously super luxurious, and creamy is really the best word for it. I also said that this cheese was mold ripened. That refers to the white mold rind on the outside. That's called Penicillium candidum or geotrichum, and that mold is edible. It tastes mild and earthy and kind of mushroomy. The flavor of the interior of this cheese is rich and buttery, but overall pretty mild. Most people usually gravitate towards Bloomy rind cheeses because they're pretty mild, and I think it's a perfect first bite at cheese. The second cheese on this board is technically also from the Bloomy rind family. This is a cow's milk American pasteurized washed rind cheese called Foxglove. It's from Indiana, and it's my favorite American made washed rind cheese. Washed rind cheeses like this one are just white mold cheeses like the Delice de Bourgogne, but they've been washed with a mold solution as they age. That mold is called Brevibacterium linens, and it's what makes this style of cheese super stinky and bright orange. Seriously, it smells like a diaper, but in a good way. Every good cheese board, in my opinion, needs to have a pure stinker on it, and the washed rind is usually it. The inside, though, is not stinky at all. It's actually really buttery and rich in a similar way to the triple cream cheese we just saw, but this cheese is drier, less soft, and it's not nearly as decadent. When you combine that mild interior flavor with the funky stink of the outside, it makes a really fun bite of cheese. This cheese is going to be for the die-hard cheesers out there. If it's on your board, they're going to thank you for it and probably think that you're cool. The third cheese going down is called Roquefort. This is a sheep's milk French raw milk blue mold ripened cheese. Roquefort is my favorite of all the global blue cheese styles because it's made with sheep's milk, and that brings a piquant, smoky richness to this cheese that I prefer over a straight up cow's milk bleu. What I also love about this sheepy Roquefort blue cheese is that it stands out and brings some aggression to this board that none of the other cheeses have. The blue Penicillium Roqueforti mold that they use to ripen this cheese actually makes it taste kind of medicinal, despite that strain of Penicillium not being the one used by doctors. This cheese is salty, creamy, and just full of good old-fashioned cheese funk. Gram for gram, it is by far the most flavorful cheese on this board. It's pungent but balanced, and I think every board needs to have something like it from the blue cheese family. Getting into some cheeses with some more age on them now, the fourth cheese on my board is the cow's milk French raw semi-hard style of cheese called Comte. This cheese was aged for about 4 months, and it's what's known as an alpine style cheese because the cows are usually grazed at higher elevations and they eat different grasses than lowland cattle would. Comte has a soft, springy texture, and the flavor is pretty mild but very, very nutty. The rind is what's called a natural rind, and it's technically edible, but I wouldn't eat it. Natural rind basically means that the mold residues on the outside have been brushed and pushed into some kind of natural barrier between the aging cheese and the outside world. Since Comte is a semi-hard style of cheese, it's usually the most sessionable style of cheese on the board. I think people generally love nutty, easy-eating cheeses, and I love to present them at least one of them. Not everyone loves eating a cheese that kind of smells like a butthole. If you still wanted to pay tribute to the style of semi-hard cheese on your board, but go with something more dynamic, I would say drop in the Welsh cow's milk cheddar called Red Dragon. This cheese is full of ale and brown and yellow mustard seeds, and it's a younger cheddar, meaning that it's more creamy. Honestly, any of the Irish, Welsh, or English cheddars would be a good addition or sub for Comte on any cheese board. If you wanted to go even more flavorful in the semi-hard category, I would say go for a younger Spanish Manchego. This is a raw sheep's milk cheese that's been aged 3 months, and it's salty, creamy, and has that distinctive sheep's milk richness. I prefer Comte though because it has a simple, clean flavor and a really deep nuttiness that I just love. It tastes like hazelnuts and has a very pleasant, firm texture. Now, moving into some more aged cheeses, we've got the cow's milk French pasteurized hard style of cheese called Mimolette. This cheese brings some beautiful, salty, dark, almost fudge-like flavors to this board that aren't present in any of the other cheeses. The distinctive orange color comes from a natto paste that they had early on in the cheese making process, and it gets even more deeply orange as they age it for long periods of time. This cheese is aged for 2 years, and it is super, super hard. Also, the rind of this cheese is not edible at all. It is extremely hard and definitely needs to be cut out of the way. In France, the raw milk version of the cheese actually develops that rind in collaboration with something called cheese mites. I guess those are bugs that literally live on the outside of the cheese and turn it into a rind. I don't know how it works, but that's why French mimolette has those tiny little dimples in it. Anyways, I really love this cheese because it has a robust, fudgy caramel quality to it. There's a deep nuttiness and an almost fruity sweetness in there as well. Overall, the complexity here makes Mimolette one of my all-time favorite cheeses. The last cheese going down on this board is kind of like a palate cleanser. This is a fresh, unaged, pasteurized goat's milk cheese from right here in Missouri called Coeur de la Creme. The broader name for this style of cheese is actually chev, and most people just call it goat cheese. It has no rind and it is usually less than 2 weeks old. In France, goat cheese is like its own category of cheese. They make all of these small, beautiful, fresh goat cheeses that are unfortunately too perishable to be shipped to the United States. Luckily, Beachy Farms and a handful of other American producers are making goat cheeses of the absolute highest quality. This is the only goat cheese on this board, but it is also probably my favorite cheese on this board. The grassy, bright, tangy goatiness of this cheese is perfect for spreading on crackers or putting on bread with a little bit of jam. In my mind, none of the other cheeses come close to having the bright, milky sweetness of this chev, and I could literally sit here and eat this entire log, no sweat, in like 5 minutes. I think every respectable cheese board needs to have some kind of fresh cheese on it, and for me, chev is the perfect option. As you can see, I've rolled mine into a little baby log by hand. It's kind of like my reference to the generic grocery store goat cheese log, and it puts this cheese into a shape that is very cute and also a lot easier to eat. What I love about this selection of cheeses is that they pay tribute to all that is great about cheese and offer a wide variety of textures, colors, and flavors, and shows off all of the different styles of cheese at once. They're salty and funky and sour and nutty and crunchy and creamy and tons of stinky in there as well. I know there's a ton of cheeses out there and you guys probably have some strong opinions, so let me know down in the comments what you guys would put on your perfect cheese board. Let's eat this cheese.